Creep up, aim, I'm bussin'. Bust it, bust it, bust it, bust it.
Because I want the tray to be about 1550 long, I'm going to have to measure what distance this is extra so I can subtract it from the total length of the pole. It's almost 7 inches exactly. 1370. Alright. Alright guys, so I've just gone ahead and marked up 1600 long on these three because they're going to be the three supports in the center of this. So I'll probably get them cut, line them up, and then figure out what's the best way to make sure this is all square before I tackle that. So let's cut those. Alright guys, so behind me you can see pretty much the whole frame of the tray. There's a few sides I need to weld still. And we just went into our first mechanical difficulty. It seemed like all of this wire, I thought I ran out of wire because it wasn't feeding anymore. But I opened this up and it turns out the motor was trying to spin but it was getting blocked. What had happened was all of this had been so tightly coiled around like a spring that it wouldn't actually, it was that tight. And so I cut the wire here. It absolutely went crazy. So I've taken it off and it's sort of settled and you can see it's all sort of loose again. And look, we have a nice consistent feed. So far, yeah. That's it. I've just got to do the back ends here of all of them, the underside, and then the whole thing is braced up. And the base of the tray is pretty much done. So after that, then we just got to do the headboard, which it's actually looking like I'll have enough steel to do the ladder rack as well, which will be awesome. And then I just need to worry about a floor, which will either be wooden slats, black metal with like a dark timber floor, or some sort of steel. Steel would just be too heavy, but a nice flat bed, but I don't know. I'll figure that out when we get to it. Alright guys, it is yet again the next day. It is now Sunday. And as you can see here, we've got the frame standing up. And you would have just seen, I've just chopped a 45-degree angle on each one of those sides. And I originally was going to mark it out, like that's the angle equivalent to what needs to fit the rear bar. I was going to cut that and weld it, but I was doing a test fit and it actually sleeved over top just. All I really need to do, I'm just going to grind these down a little bit so it's not as thick down in here, so it can sort of slide over a bit easier. I want to make sure it's got a good sort of base and then I can weld it. But yeah, I don't know, I was pretty happy, little happy accident there. Alrighty guys, so where we are, I've just welded it all up, so it's now part of the whole thing. I'm just gonna wire brush everything and then put some paint over it, some Colgao, and then we can start working on the headboard. So I'm gonna have 2 posts coming up either side and then 1 in the middle. I need to figure out the length of one of the posts because they're gonna come up and then bend and then go out. So I'll need to figure that out, but I'm sure we'll be able to do that. Time to cover this thing in paint. So, the whole thing's been painted up and it's sort of just sitting there now. So I've taken the old tray off, as you would have just seen, and I need to sort through all of these wires. But what I'm doing now is I've got 4 mounts. I'm just going to cut some of the 50x50 into another 50mm cube square, which I'm then going to use as the mounting bracket, and then the chassis rail of the tray will sit on top of that, and then the tray is on those chassis rails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 4 of these cubes, bolt them in place, and then sit the chassis rail on top, weld that in, like weld it to the bracket, and then I can sit the tray on top and weld the tray to the chassis rail, and that way I can then unbolt the tray from the whole car, and the chassis rails are in the correct position. And then once that's done, I'll be able to measure out how high I want the headboard to, I'm just forgetting words, how high I want the headboard to sit. Let's cut up these cubes, bolt them in place, sit these chassis rails, these are the 2 chassis rails here, sit these on it. As you can see, the tray is actually on the car now. It's just resting there at the moment, but pretty much this is exactly where it's going to sit. So what I've done is I've welded up these mounts here, all 4 of them, and they then bolt onto the chassis where a tray would normally bolt onto with this car. I originally didn't have these 50mm packers, but it was sitting about here, and it just didn't look right. So I've cut out those packers. And there's one on each point of connection. And I'll then brace them up as well because, you know, when you add height to something, it can be more unstable. So I'll definitely reinforce those. I might cut out some like sheets, some triangle sheets that'll sort of weld on up and then down, you know, like just patch that on. I'm gonna tack the 4 corner ones in so that I can lift the whole tray off and the mounts are all welded on. And then I'll figure out these braces. I'll weld these all in, make them all nice and strong. And then tomorrow, all I need to do then is tackle the headboard. So it should be good. It's looking pretty mean. It is sitting pretty high too, which I'm not opposed to. I did, the actually 50mm gap actually works out well here because my plan was either to have the exhaust dump out the side or come 2 out the back, sort of like how Sam Miles has it. That's easily like we can easily cut that off, weld up a extension to come through and it'll sit under here and then it'll split up into 2 and then come out the back here as a dual exhaust. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it's looking. And I purposely made it a little bit thinner on each side so that I can continue these up around. I actually have the original ones of these still in here and they come up and they pretty much perfectly follow this. And that's gonna then bend around into a mud guard. So that'll look sick. Time to tack these in, get it off and brace it all up.